Welcome to the Foundry, where leaders are forged daily. I'm your host, George Roberts. Welcome back, entrepreneurs. Today we welcome Brian Briscoe, founder of Four Oaks Capital. Welcome, Brian.
Hey, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
All right. So usually I like to start the interview by asking people, what was the most memorable job you worked before turning to entrepreneurship?
Really, I've had one job for 20 years, and prior to that, it's been a long time since I had any other job. So I'll just say, I've been an active duty Marine for 20 years. And I think, 30, 40, 50 years from now, that'll still be the most memorable job.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
So then at some point, you got involved in real estate. So how did you get your start?
I realized, after reading like Rich Dad, Poor Dad and, Cash Flow Quadrant and a bunch of other books on finances that I really needed to start working on that asset column, not just, money in one side, money out the other side, like a lot of people do, but decided that I would just start buying single families. And, this was, 15 or so years ago, and I was, already active duty. And I hadn't made the decision to go make Marine Corps a career at the time, but I just thought, as long as I'm active duty, I'll just buy a house every time I move and we'll rent it out. And that was just the easiest way that I could think of to start accumulating assets and putting, appreciating or cash flowing assets in the asset column to start creating wealth. So, and that was really it. And I always had kind of a mind towards, buying more real estate. And, eventually that led me to multifamily. So, yeah.
Awesome. Anything more to say about going from the single family space to multifamily? Any sort of aha moment?
One of the aha moments was, I was deployed. I had a lot of time on my hands, and I mean, really, the aha moment was that the single family, although I had proof of concept because I had a ton of appreciation, balance sheet. I had acquired a significant net worth compared to where I started. I mean, it wasn't quit your job and live happy for the rest of your life net worth, but I had six figures in a couple of properties in equity. And I just realized that the potential's there, but for this to make a meaningful impact, I needed to be able to scale. I needed to be able to have more than single family. And, I started spreadsheeting. And at one point I realized that I was going to need, roughly 60 to 80 units, at the current, and obviously, I use some local market data to figure that out. But in the markets that I was wanting to invest in, I needed 60 to 80 units to be able to live, the life that I wanted without having to work. And the amount of time and effort it was going to take to get there was, seemed like it wasn't going to be feasible in a short amount of time. And that was, in a way, a little bit depressing. It's just like, man, I've been doing this for a while. I'm 40, and if I have to keep on doing this for another 20 or 30 years to be able to retire comfortably, it's too long. But so long story short, I found multifamily, and I found that as a way to basically skip several steps in the single family journey where, if you find a 24 unit, it's almost like a buy one, get 23 free sale. So I found that as a way to get from, single digit single family homes to, that 60 to 80 mark a lot quicker.
I love it. So that's a very interesting mark to be at, right? When you're the 60, 80, you still have those so-called mom and pop owners. Sometimes you find some assets that are mispriced. So do you have any good stories, maybe an acquisition where somebody maybe mismanaged the property and you were able to take it up and manage in a much better way?
We've got a couple of those. One of them where we're turning the corner on. It was a Section 8 housing play. 32 unit. Actually, it was a 33 unit. They were leasing out the leasing office as a studio apartment, and we continue to do so. But we actually purchased the property for less than the owner paid for it, and he bought it in 2001, 2002 timeframe. But in the last, I don't know how long, but it seemed like at least 5 to 10 years, the owner just hadn't put any significant money into the apartments. This is Columbia, South Carolina, where summers are, hot and humid. And number one, they had no air conditioning, so it wasn't a desirable place to live. The owner didn't provide appliances, for the residents, and if you think about it, low income housing, people who can't afford to pay rent usually can't afford to, buy a stove and a fridge when they move in either. So, for good reason, the property was about 50% occupancy when we purchased it. So, in roughly a year since we've owned it, we've renovated a significant amount. We've worked directly with the housing authority to be able to bring in better tenants, and to be able to start filling it up. And the other thing we were able to do is, and this is still a work in progress, but there's other Section 8 voucher programs that actually pay us more to do what we're doing. So, just by changing from one Section 8 program to another Section 8 program, our rents are going to jump about 70 to 75%. So, I think that's probably the clearest example. Another one, I mean, incidentally, we got a unsolicited LOI on this one, last week. Just working with a seller who had an urgency to sell. He wanted to sell his property to do a 1031 exchange. This was about this time last year, and he found the property that he wanted to move into. So he had to pull a trigger really quickly, and he knew we were interested. So we negotiated a great purchase price, 2.4 million for an 80 unit apartment building. And, I got an unsolicited LOI in my email 2 days ago at 4 million, and the broker indicated that's, the starting point, and they would accept counters. So just looking at the numbers, I mean, 1.6 million, I mean, math in public, that's also a 75% increase in value. Just, and most of that value came from, we just bought right. We bought at a really solid price, an owner who was really wanting to get out. And, if we sold right now, would make a pretty good turn on our investment.
That's awesome. Now, is that a Forex Capital purchase?
Yeah. Both of those are Four Oaks Capital purchases.
Both,
And
okay.
and incidentally, all of my apartment investing activity as a GP or a sponsor has been with Four Oaks.
Okay, awesome. And so then, what's the largest that you've purchased at this point?
We have a 167 unit in Augusta, Georgia.
All right, cool. Now, I know a lot of people, when they get up to that, say, 100 unit mark or even a 60 to 80, have to find a sponsor. They have to be a co-sponsor on a deal before they do that. Did you go through that stage?
For the first purchase we did, we had to find a sponsor, and basically all we lacked was experience. So we had all the other boxes checked that you need to be able to get the loan. We just didn't have experience. But so basically, first deal, we got somebody to come in as a key principal, put their experience on the line for us, and they still serve as a mentor. And when we have issues, we pick up the phone and call them. But that's getting fewer and far between now. But after that, it was, the lenders were giving us loans on our own merits. So we've been very fortunate with that. So for the 167, we didn't need anything. Incidentally, that's our most recent purchase. And so we had, 7 loans in, Four Oaks Capital, we had 7 loans combined prior to, and that was enough to meet the experience threshold.
Mhm. Okay, cool. So then, what's your MO? Like when you go out looking for properties, what sort of deals you're looking for? What are you offering to your clients? Are you doing 506C?
We do 506Bs in general, and typically we like the Southeast. All the Four Oaks founders have ties to the Southeast. 3 of the 4 live in the Carolinas right now. My tie is my wife was born and raised in Lexington, South Carolina. So, we go there frequently, and, I'll be back down there in a week or two. But end of the day, we're looking Southeast Carolinas and Georgia. We're looking for value add B or C class properties. And like I said, we do 506Bs, so we allow other people, accredited and non-accredited investors to invest with us, and that's something that I think we'll continue to do for the foreseeable future, just because we want these opportunities to be available to everybody, and not just people with a balance sheet of $1 million or more.
Yeah, I just love that. I think that's a very important thing. And it's something that's getting a little lost over the years. At first, I understand the 506C was not very popular at all. But now is that you've got these third-party verifications, it seems like everybody's doing them.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what about the next big step for Four Oaks?
We've got a lot of irons in the fire. We got a couple of new programs that we're running. One of them is my baby. It's called Tribe of Titans, but we're creating a community where investors can come learn, network, and do everything else. It's based around educational content. That's we've spent a couple of years and several, probably $100,000 combined to educate ourselves on the business, and basically trying to be able to impart that to others. But Tribe of Titans is what it's called. And then the other thing we're doing is we have this a service called Cash Flow Concierge, where we're helping people find the smaller deals. For our syndications, we like the 100 and above. But if we have some well qualified investors who potentially want to have a 20 or a 40 unit that they can call their own, we'll help them find it. Obviously for a fee, but we'll help them find it. And we have several people that have expressed interest. We've actually closed on 2 properties through this cash flow concierge program, and busily looking for number 3. But yeah, that's basically what's coming up in the near future. Um, and then obviously we're going to continue to find the larger properties and do our 506B syndications.
That's exciting. So tell me a little bit more about the Private Titan. So this is your educational arm
Yeah.
of Four Oaks. And so what sort of things are you doing? Are you doing like boot camps or
Mhm.
one-on-one mentoring?
Yeah, so we're going to start a little smaller. I am still active duty, and so my time is I spend a lot of time in the Pentagon. To be honest with you, today I happened to arrange a telework, which is why we're able to talk. But the Tribe of Titans, it's basically going to be the beginning of all of that. We will eventually have boot camps. We will eventually have one-on-one coaching. But right now we have a lot of basic educational information on there. How to get started. How to analyze markets. How to do basically how to get your start. And we're continuing to add content almost on a daily basis to what we have. We're going to make it live on July 1st. So right now it's a lot of content and it's a lot of ideas, but we've also been doing weekly networking events and monthly meetups just to kind of grow our network and be able to make this launch valuable, so people will be able to come in. We've curated a network of people who are interested in investing, people who are experienced and looking for maybe some people to help, some more horsepower. So anyway, we think this is going to be a very popular product. It's going to be something that people can come in and for a very very low, we're going to charge like $30 a month, but for the cost of a cup of coffee every other day, you can get a lot of value, a lot of content. You will have at least one weekly live session where one of either me or one of the partners is going to be online leading it. So end of the day, we just want to form a community of people who are all interested in apartments. They can find other people to invest with, find partners, find mentors, find deals even, and be able to reach the next step, whatever it is.
Who would you say had the greatest influence on your entrepreneurial career?
That's a good question. I'd say probably my dad in a lot of ways. I mean, and he was he kind of dabbled with a couple of entrepreneurial things. He joined Amway in like the 80s, and tried to make that work. And um, I remember him always talking about, having to try to disconnect his time and his money. But he ended up working a government job all his life and is on a pension right now. But um, you know, Amway was really big on self-education. And so he had like a big Tupperware box full of cassette tapes that were all just, motivational and educational. And um, I'd basically take one or two at a time and listen to people like Zig Ziglar talk about, how to do things. But so I think that really planted the seed for me, was just, watching my dad, try to make this Amway thing work. And I went to a lot of conferences with him, and I would ask to go with him, because it really fascinated me. And, I just saw the potential of, just the entrepreneurship, the potential of being a business owner. Um, and so I remember my dad, he did that, tried that for a couple of years, didn't work too well for him. But remember one time he told me, he's like, hey, if you ever want to figure out this money thing, you need to go find yourself a mentor. You need to go find somebody who can teach you. You need to find somebody who can walk you through the steps. And then he says, and that's not me. Like, I'll give you advice on anything you want, but don't ask me about money, because I've never figured it out. But long story short, he's kind of been that person for me that's influenced me in that direction.
Okay, so then in terms of inspiration, like what keeps you going as an entrepreneur? Do you have an inspiring quote or maybe a big why, something like that?
My big why, I didn't realize it. I think everybody's why is there. For me, it's the family. It's related to family. It's related to kids. I have 5 kids, and in the military, I've had to pick them up and move them many, many times. And one day I just had a particularly low moment, and I was deployed. We were in a situation where I had zero contact with my kids. They had zero contact with me for several months. And I just realized that I had to change something. And this is back to the 60 to 80, when I figured out how many it would take for me to buy my time back. It was basically that same period where I kind of realized that, if I didn't do anything different, if I didn't take some big steps to disconnect my time from my income, that I would continue, as a U.S. Marine, to deploy when the Marine Corps tells me to deploy, and to be away from my family when the Marine Corps tells me to be away from my family. And that's um, yeah, my why is, I don't want to force my kids to move ever again, to uproot them and replant them over and over again. Where we're kind of done with that. So this has enabled me to basically retire from the Marine Corps and end that chapter and move on to something else.
Have you got any advice for your younger self?
Yeah, my younger self wouldn't have listened to me. So no. I mean, that's the honest truth. Um, but for anyone younger who's listening to this, I would just say start. Just whatever you decide you want to do, just start. And you're going to learn more by doing than you ever will by listening to people like me talk about it.
All right, how about this? Can you send us out with a memorable story from your entrepreneurial journey? Maybe you told us a couple of stories of your properties.
Hmm. The entrepreneurial journey has been a lot of I hate to say it, a lot of slam doors. There's been a lot of opportunities, and it just takes that big burning why to push you through. I think one of the best stories is calling a broker up. And this was over 2 years ago. Before we closed on our first deal, we didn't know it yet, but we were on the threshold of getting the first deal under contract. But I call a broker up, based out of Greenville, South Carolina. And if anybody's watching the video, that's my virtual background is Greenville. But I talked to him, and I said, hey, I want to buy you lunch or coffee. Can we meet in person? I'm going to be down in Greenville next week. Would love to meet you. And he said, nope. I'm like, what? I was kind of shocked. He's like, no, I don't do that. He's like, I get probably a dozen calls like this every week from people who want to buy properties. And quite frankly, it's a waste of my time. So we're not going to, no, we're not going to meet. And he further explained that he gets his business from sellers. And, once people are owners, that's who he talks with. If I were a property owner, he'd be glad to sit down and talk with me because that could potentially lead to him getting a commission. And I was just like, oh my good. Well, actually, at first I was shocked and maybe a little mad, but I learned a lot from that because other brokers weren't calling me back. And he was the first person who was just honest with me about why. But long story short, a couple months later, we've actually closed 2 deals with him since then.
Mhm.
So and I don't know if he probably doesn't remember me, but basically how it worked out is after we closed on our first property, somebody, a mutual friend, um, basically said, "Hey, broker's name, I want to introduce you to the Forex guys." And he sent us an email. He invited us over to his place. We sat down to lunch together and, basically started the relationship. So within a 6-month time frame, we went from nope, I'm not even going to give you the time of day to, come on over, let's talk, let's eat, let's do all this stuff together. And like I said, we've closed 2 deals with him as a broker, and hopefully we'll get a couple more. But anyway, it's a long road, but just keep on remembering that why, keep on pushing forward.
Yeah, I love it. It's that law of the first deal.
Mhm.
Makes such a difference.
Yeah.
Brian, I would like to thank you for joining us today. That's an outstanding story of entrepreneurship. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. I appreciate your time, man.